Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Pro and Experts Division with various wins for the Fall Major 2023 tournament here in Golf Clash the game. You will see me play all the 9 holes of the reworked Greenock Point, and I will explain a lot and give you a lot of information for you to devour. And the important part here is to have the sound on and not just watch the replays, because there are different ways to play these holes, and I mean the playthrough can only be as long, otherwise you're gonna fall asleep. So it is important to listen to my explanations, and if you have any questions you can always send me a direct message or comment in the comment section below. Before we take a look at all the replays, make sure to hit the thumbs up button, also subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. For those of you that are looking for premium guides, meaning that you get yourself an easy way to get yourself from the qualifying to the opening round, and then from the opening round to the weekend round to compete for the prize chest and the top spots, then you go and subscribe to our Ultimate Tournament Guide packages for Expert or Master, depending on what division you are playing, and start your journey today. We have other guides there as well on Patreon, which is premium guides for Checkpoint Challenge and Tour Play as well. Scan the QR code here on the screen, or you use the link patreon.com/golfclashtommy that is in the description down below. That will take you directly to all our packages. You select the one you want to start with, and then you go from there. Last but not least, we do have the info box on the right hand side for the club distance adjustment, elevation adjustment, also what ball and club type I suggest you to play with. Have in mind that those are all suggestions and you don't have to follow it if you don't want to, but there's always a plan behind it. So let's go to hole number 1. For hole number 1, we are going to send it again, and we are going to play with a driver that gives us a lot of power, which is our Apocalypse in this instance. We're also playing with a power 5 ball. Now, with the remake of this one, and the rough here is much more consistent if we do bounce into the lighter rough. You can see here how the ball guideline is showing dead bounces in the more darker patch of rough, where those purple bushes are. And that's how it works. So instead of having like hidden dead bounces like it has been before, now we can more or less rely on the brighter rough to always roll us through, which in my opinion is going to make this hole so much easier, and also it's going to bring a chance for an hole in one in a much better way. You can see how it rolls nicely. It's good speed though, but the outside wall left curl that I'm using is not really needed. 5.8 top spin to left spin to accommodate to lower level Apocalypse. I'm using circle drop overpower as well. So with tailwind here, we are going to go easily to the green. If you do have a headwind here, or a crosswind with lower level clubs, then you're gonna have to lay up on the left, and then that's gonna be a short iron to pin from there. Elevation max plus 15 on the drive. For hole number 2 from the second tee, we are now going to use the rough bump in a much bigger extent. The problem we do have with using the left side of the fairway is that now with the new type of green, it's not going to have speed enough to reach towards the hole. So you're either going to have to do some type of a bounce up the hill and be lucky to fall back down in line, or you go for the rough bump where there are a nice little sticky spot from there. Obviously this is more towards the aggressive side, so you need to be spot on with your adjustment. If you're looking for a safe birdie here with a much less chance for an hole in one, then you can still use the left side. You will still roll down towards the green and you will be around the hole and get yourself an easy birdie putt. But a hole in one is definitely what we're looking for when we are pushing, especially from a tournament perspective. Adjustment. Here in the video, I'm using a 1-to-1 type of set adjustment always when I do play par 3s with quarterback and the rock and the sniper. So here I adjusted 1-to-1. 1-to-1 plus 0.2 was the adjustment. Use 2 left spin, 1.5 back spin, but the adjustment and the spins will definitely vary depending on what wind angle you do have off tee. And the reason I use the rock instead of his quarterback is because it has more power that will allow me to play with many different ball types, where with the quarterback we would be restricted, especially in the more headwind angles, we would be restricted to play with a power 4 plus ball. On the drive here now on hole number 3, and we are playing from the second tee on the left hand side. That's the more common way for us to play. However, though, the right hand side is definitely an interesting play, especially for those of you that do have the possibility to use like P4, P5 balls, but also if you do have a tailwind with a P3 ball. The problem with the right side is that we do need a certain distance, otherwise the second shot is not going to be possible to be played, and therefore I do go on the left hand side here. At max line, adjust max plus 20, half a ball of right curl, and the circle drop overpower. Maybe not the ultimate type of drive to display in terms of that you have a little shake on that needle, but that's just for display once again. The intention is to have the ball rolling down the rough on the left, or like in between the rough on the left and the sand on the right, to approximately 380 to 390 yards ultimately. On the second shot, we are doing a rough bump. I'm using 3 right spin, no side spin, no top spin, and using my Guardian here. And the reason I'm using the Guardian is to allow for more power on my club, whereof obviously the Cataclysm or the Big Dog could be a possibility too. But I like the fact that the Guardian has a pretty decent accuracy, and then that would be a better club, in my opinion, than using a Cat 5 and a Cat 6. Obviously Cat 7, Cat 8 has a better accuracy and also has a good ball guideline to follow too. Adjustment is done. I'm playing this rough bump as a negative -5, and I do that because otherwise we will be massively over adjusted. It's one thing to do a rough bump like this. There is one thing to do a bounce over, because the bounce over plays obviously that we need to take into account the second bounce, or like the flight time between the first and the second bounce, which obviously is going to be a little bit, no, it's going to be harder to control. I do feel like if we do have room and we know we can reach for the rough bump, then the rough bump is going to be the way we do play. For hole number 4, now we are playing a rough bump here. And the reason I'm playing an aggressive rough bump is because there is a pretty nice funnel that comes in play when you do the rough bump. Bouncing over the rough and the sand is not as good anymore as it was before. This, as the green slopes slightly, and that slope is definitely not something that the bounce over do like. I do adjust mid plus 15 P3 numbers, and I'm using spin to pin, meaning I have the inner ring by the rough line, adding whatever spins needed to get the ball guideline through hole. Even though it doesn't look like it from start, you do have plenty of room for greats on either side here, and this is, in my opinion, the absolute best way to lock in an hole-in-one. For those of you that do not feel confident with a rough bump like this, even though the drop weight will be very positive, then you can always do a standard bounce over towards the pin. But what you need to have in mind though is that the birdie will definitely be the most common score on your scorecard. Take your game to the next level with our ultimate tournament text guides for expert and master division for the fall major tournament here in Golf Clash the game. Scan the QR code here on the screen or go directly to patreon.com/golfclashtommy via the link that is in the description down below. There you can sign up for our premium guides, the guides that takes loads of players every tournament, have an easy time to get from qualifying round to opening round, and then obviously from opening to the weekend round to compete for the top spots, and especially in the major with more clam point at stake, with more with more reputation at stake as well. Obviously, it is in the majors 1 out of 4 we have every year that we do want to do well in. So make sure to sign up and be a part of the by far the largest guide community on the market. On hole number 5, here we're gonna play the way we have always played, which is just ping the ball straight up the fairway. Sure, if you do have a nice tailwind and a good club and a good ball, meaning like a club with a lot of power and a ball with a lot of topspin boost and power, then you could possibly get yourself to green. But that's not the wind angle that we're having here. I'm using a topspin amount that is accommodating to the lower level Apocalypse. I'm also starting at the plus 10 yard mark, which is not max line with P3. This is also to show that this is a very straightforward, very simple drive you can get down the fairway. What you need to be aware of though is that it's very easy to flirt with the bunker on the left and also the rough on the right. So try to find a position that gives you room to hit great on either side. And here you can see that we're getting the drive up nicely to approximately 360 yards. On the second shot from here, now, it's going to be very difficult to drop this one if you're going to have to do a bounce over towards the pin. Now, the result here is honestly crap when it comes to how far I am from the pin. But the reason I'm choosing this replay is to show you how glitchy it is if we go at the pin dead on. Sure, now I'm backing up, you can see that we can do a double bounce rough bump, but we need a little bit more topspin. But you can see that the ball guideline is pretty firm in that way, which could be something to have in our mind if we do have a club with more topspin like Cataclysm and the wind is not really bounce over material or rough bump material. But now you can see I'm moving more left. Here's because we do want to have a firm ball guideline. Always leaving the ball guideline short here because we will be having a pretty decent rollout. Now, my mistake here in the replay is that I'm not adjusting for max plus 20. So I'm adjusting way less, and that's also showing. Now, for those of you that do have the possibility to play with a higher powered ball, you can reach to do the rough bump. And that is definitely something that is recommended, but it's often special ball required, or at least having a ball that you may have to pay for. That is not one of the free-to-play balls to this date. Also going to forcing you to play with either a high-level Guardian or a Cataclysm 2T. Hole number 6 of T plays exactly the same way as we're used to. If we do have a headwind, we're either going to play left or we're going to play right. If you do play right, you are somewhat forfeiting any sort of eagle, so therefore you will see a little bit of an aggressive drive from my end to show you a different way of playing this hole that you might not be used to if you're playing it from second tee. This is a way that has been played before in tournaments, mainly from the third tee. What we're looking for is to play this way in headwind angle, to use as much topspin as you can. Now I'm using 6 bars of topspin to cater to the lower level Apocalypse levels, and I'm aiming with the second bounce to be just before the rough line. The intention with my play is to bounce and take that high little bounce over all the rough and rolls nicely towards yard that is approximately 360 yards. The green from the left here is it does not slope as much as we used to, but when it comes to this bounce up play here, there isn't really much of a good ball guideline to follow. So here in this playthrough, you can see me attempt a rough bump from min line, because there are some nice little spots there in the rough, and if we can catch it, we can definitely simplify the way of getting an eagle. But have in mind though, when it comes to this particular hole itself, when it comes to having a tailwind of tee, it becomes so much easier. What I mean with that is that then you can play up to the center fairway, the larger fairway, and then have a short iron towards the pin. And that will always be what's going to be recommended on this hole if you do have a tailwind. But this route, as it is not that known for the most of the players, it's a good way to have this type of route in a playthrough, so you actually know that there is a way to attack the pin in a good way if you do not have tailwind off tee. Using our sniper at complete max, and you can see here that we are using the left side of this fairway, or on the decision of going either left or right of pin. Here I'm using 3 right spin and 2 back spin. And you can see here that I'm having the blue ring slightly into the rough, like half into the rough. Adjust max plus 20. And then we're going to center the ball to it. Perfect. The intention here is to play a very safe way, as there aren't really any funnels here on this screen, but the safe way will result into that we are bouncing on the fairway up onto the green, and then we take that little roll down like this, and if we're lucky, we're dropping that 1-4 and holding 1. Spins will vary, club will vary depending on what type of wind direction you do have off tee. If you do have a headwind, it's most likely that you will be playing with a driver instead. For hole number 8, you have a decision to go either left or right here now. Sure, you could blast this ball to green if the wind angle from tee allows, or you have the possibility to play with some sort of a topspin boost. You can see here that I'm somewhat looking around here a little bit, just first of all to kind of have a little look on how it looks here now, because this is drastically different than what we are used to. And you can see there, by having a little topspin boost, we could easily get ourselves in between the two bunkers and have a wedge towards the pin. The right side or the left side doesn't really matter in terms of what the second shot will be. The second shot will always be a short iron, where from the left side it's going to be a little bit longer than it is from the right. But the difference between the left side and the right side is that not just that you have a longer shot from the left side, it's also that you do have to play with much more elevation from the right, because this second shot is much more downhill than what you will have from the left hand side. On the second shot, you will see me play plus 20 in elevation. It needs plus 25, but this, as always, is just as a display on how to play this hole. But here you can see we're playing very close to min line, and then you do have on the left hand side, you have more towards a mid max type of club play. The difference in elevation is that we play 25% elevation from here, and we play 0% elevation on the other side. Here we do play a bounce up play, where we do have on the left side that we do play a rough bomb. So there are many different ways to get the eagle here. It's all about playing the way that you feel confident with. What I'm showing here in the playthrough is one of the alternatives. So hopefully you have listened to my explanations and heard that there are other ways to play this hole as well. Hole number 9. This is the only disappointment I do have of the rework of the Greenock Point, and the reason for that is something I will explain at the end of me talking through hole 9. Starting with a P4 and a QB at max rest. This I do when I do have a headwind angle here. This will allow me for a consistent landing spot, and also not being able to adjust into max line when I do play with a lower powered ball. So I do swap the Apocalypse and my Grizzly bag, setting 6 top spin and 1 left spin. Adjust max plus 20. And then I'll go full overpower with a slow needle. Now, I don't know what's going on with the sky. It seems like almost that we are playing in the space or something like that. The intention is to clip the rough and roll out consistently into around 350 yards. If you're using a ball that you have power 4 or power 5, you will have a completely slow needle with that OP. But the playthroughs is always going to be with free-to-play balls, such as the Kingmaker or any other type of free-to-play balls. Hence me using a ball that gives me a little bit of a shaky needle. When it comes to the second shot, now, this is one of 2 points that makes me very disappointed of this hole. Now, look on this one here. Now, I'm not moving around that much, but this is a very glitchy fairway now, and they have made this little uphill spot there by the green, which is going to either have us to bounce with the second bounce just on that uphill spot and roll up on towards the pin, or we're going to have to go directly up there. There are glitches there that you can't really see, and instead of having a having the fairway fairly flat that we had before, it's going to be a fairway that's going to be extremely inconsistent if you don't know where to put your target. So try to mirror my aim point and try to go from there. Now I do adjust slightly less because I'm just guessing with the adjustment, or slightly less than what's needed, obviously, because we're just missing on the right hand side. I'm not saying that this is not an Albatross material, this hole, but they have made it so stupidly inconsistent there on that fairway that it frustrates me a little bit. The other part, the other point that makes me disappointed in this hole is that if you're going to play left, trying to play through the trees, which is a pretty common way when it comes to hunting the Albatross, especially in pretty severe headwinds, or not being able to play with any high power balls, then that fairway is terrible. So the only way to somewhat have a solid chance for an Albatross is to make it over on the right, which is not going to be possible all the time if you're not being forced to play with a better ball that you might not have because you might be a free-to-play player. So hole number 9, that's my summary of that. Albatross definitely, but it's going to be mainly eagles on this hole. Thank you so much everybody for watching this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division for the Fall Major Tournament 2023 version. Reworked Greenock Point is that we are playing, and this is going to be really exciting. For those of you that are playing from the second tee and mainly Expert, we do offer ultimate tournament guides, our premium guides for tournament play, for those of you that do want to have an easy way to get yourself to the weekend round and compete there for the prize chest and the top spots. For those that are playing Master and still watching this replay, we do have premium guides for Master as well. Scan the QR code here on the screen, or you use the link patreon.com/golfclashtommy that is in the description down below.